Hi, welcome to the All Things LGBTQ interview show, where we interview LGBTQ guests who are making important contributions to our communities.
All Things LGBTQ is taped at Orca Media in Montpelier, Vermont, which we recognize as being unceded Indigenous land.
Thanks for joining us and enjoy the show.
I am here with Margie Adam, who carries with her a history as a lesbian feminist singer, songwriter, pianist, and activist, whose commitment to peace and justice shines powerfully through her songs, 40 years of performance, her lifelong involvement in progressive issues, and her current work as an integrative counselor. You have 9 albums, you have a YouTube channel, you have 2 films, and you have a counseling practice. So welcome, Margie.
Thank you, Anne. Thank you. I'm very happy to be here with you today.
It's great to have you. This is a very impressive record, and I have to, let's reminisce a little bit. I met you in October at the Lesbian Lives Conference.
Yes.
Which was an exhilarating experience, and you were on a panel with my friend Carla J., whom I've known for many years. And then afterwards, we, were able to chat in the common area and get to know each other a little bit. So I was wondering if you could take us back to 1973. I know you started composing in 1972, but in 1973, would you mind telling us about this whole cluster of events, the Sacramento Women's Music Festival, Kate Millett, Jean Cordova, Lesbian Tide, and the beginning of your career? That's a lot to cover.
Let me set my timer. Well, first of all, I have to give you more information, which is that I actually began to compose music, solo piano music, in 1963, 10 years earlier. And it was on the experience of having fallen in love with my best friend. And the very first piece of music that I ever composed was called Kathy's Song. And it was a solo piano piece that ended up actually on my first solo piano album called Naked Keys. And that piece of music was called From the Beginning. So you can hear the very first piece of music I ever wrote right on Naked Keys. And I wrote for 10 years solo piano music. And not purposefully. I wrote it when it felt like coming through me. And I was always surprised, but not actually intentional, I would say. And then I met this woman and fell in love with her. And this is a theme. Meeting women and falling in love with them. I'm still doing that.
Lovely.
I'm still doing that. I have some different behavior involved at this point as a 78-year-old, and as also a woman who's got a lot of experience falling in love. I fell in love with her, and I sat down at the piano to express my feelings, and I began to sing, which I had not planned on doing. I had planned on being a composer of soundtracks like Henry Mancini, like Jerry Goldsmith in Patch of Blue. At this time in 1972, 73, Carole King was just making the transition from a songwriter into a singer. And Joni Mitchell was making that transition, and Laura Nyro. I'm not sure which the order, but the 3 of those women were all very well known, very well respected songwriters, and not with voices that would have been considered to be conventional female voices. But something was happening. Anyway, I began to sing and spent a year writing about my relationship with this woman. Susan was her name. And my first song with lyrics was Song to Susan. I became more creative about titles as time went on, but I'm one for naming names. And I think for women, it's really important that we know who we're talking about, that it's not just distributors. It's Lori Fuchs. It's Cary Grant. it's Claudia Rosenthal, just names, celebrating our names. Anyway, I began to write these songs, and at some point, I thought, well, let me see if I can get anybody interested in singing these songs. The only person I really wanted to sing my music was Dusty Springfield. I didn't know exactly how to get to her, but I made a reel-to-reel tape and went to Los Angeles and made appointments with the artists and repertoire men at various record companies. And I had no idea what I was doing. But like many women of my era, that didn't stop me. There was just this sense of, this is what I want to do. I'll figure out how to do it, and then I'll go do it. And then, let the chips fall where they may. So I spent a week doing that, and very different opinions about why the music wasn't appropriate for those various record companies. But the message was, not for us. And however it is for me in my life, I didn't take it personally. I went, oh, okay, not for you. And in exactly the same week, this very close friend of mine said, there's going to be this lesbian conference at UCLA. You're going to be in LA, right? I said, yeah, I'm going to be in LA doing this. I'm going to shop my music and see if anybody's interested. So at the end of that, I was going to this conference, and it was produced by Jean Cordova, who was the publisher of The Lesbian Tide. And she had invited Robin Morgan and Kate Millett to speak at this lesbian festival. And I knew both their names. I had begun to read about feminism and trying to figure out what that was. Kate, when it was her turn, said, I'm tired of talking politics. I want to do something. I want to create a space. Let's have a women's music festival. My little ears just, I thought, well, I'll find someone to sing my music there. So I went to that festival, encouraged by this wonderful group of women from Chicago called the Family of Women, with Linda Shear at its head. And Linda said, we'd love to stay with you. We're on our way to Kate's festival, and could we stay overnight? And because I had signed on a clipboard at the conference, there was a little women's music something or other, and I said, what the hell is that? So I went over there, and there was Linda running this thing, and she passed a clipboard around, and we all signed our names, to be contacted in case of what, I don't know. And then she called and said, hey, could we stay with you on the way to this festival that Kate said she was going to do? She's doing it. And I went, she's doing it. So by the time they were gone, I was talking to my beloved Susan and saying, could I borrow your VW van so that I could go up there? I'm going to take my music up there. Maybe I will. And so there I was after that conference, which, I mean, the order is so close. It's like weeks and months apart. And I was just moving at the speed of life. I didn't feel like I was ever racing in this story. I just was moving and saying yes over and over again. I went to that festival, and Jean was in the audience. And she had been at the conference. She had been one of the principal producers. And she said, I'm doing a fundraiser for the Lesbian Tide. Would you come down, after I sang? I said, I'm not a performer. I'm a songwriter, and I'm looking for somebody to sing my songs. Here I am at this open mic at this festival. And Jean came over to me afterwards and said, I'm doing this fundraiser, and what was the woman's name? Jill Johnston is going to be there with her new book, Lesbian Nation. And, would you come and sing? And I said, wow. She said, you don't have to perform. You can just come and sing. I went, oh, okay. Kind of like this open mic. I can just talk about my songs. She said, just do exactly the same thing. You don't have to do anything more. And you can wear what you want, Well, that's good. So I went there and I sang my songs. And there was a woman in the audience that was the manager of Vicki Randall, who was this up and coming young singer. And Barbara McLean, who happened to be Jean's roommate, Barbara, who had been brought to this gig because Gene was producing this event for the Lesbian Tide, Barbara came over and said, I don't know about you as a performer, but as a songwriter, would you like to work with Vicki and write some music from her? I think she could sing some of your songs. I think it would be good. And she's singing other Melissa Manchester, Carole King, Laura Nyro, Joni Mitchell, And so I said, yes. I began to work with her. And at some point, there was a note that came through to Barbara McLean saying, there's going to be this National Women's Music Festival over at Champaign-Urbana. Vicki should be there. And Barbara said, why don't you go with Vicki? And, actually, I'm going to get a slot for Vicki. Why don't you write in there and get a slot for yourself? So I said, well, I'm not a performer. And she said, it's whatever, just go and go, just go. I want you to go and accompany Vicki. So I did. And the first night I was there, Chris Williamson was on the stage singing on a Tuesday night. And I had her Ampex label, her record called Chris Williamson. I knew her music. I'd been living with it for a year. I knew it really, really well. I felt like I knew her. I knew something about how she related in the world as a result of the sound that she made with her voice and the piano and her, just all of it. And I went up and I said, I'd love to have a conversation with you. I'm a songwriter as well. And she said, oh, I'd love to hear your music. So we went to a dormitory and found a lounge with a piano in it and traded songs all night long until the only thing left to do was to manifest what had happened in that space of time between the two of us, which we did for the next year and performed all over the country. Oh, and there was another thing, which is by the end of that week at National, Chris and Meg Christian and Vicki and I were all on the Saturday night stage doing women's music because the two singers who were supposed to be there, and who were they? Let's see, Yoko Ono and wonderful one other performer. They both canceled. So the festival had nobody for Saturday night. They said, well, who did everybody like? And somehow I was in that process and was chosen and was there with the rest. And the rest is history, really.
Well, let's pause and go back and explain what Lesbian Tide is for those of our younger viewers who might not
sure.
know.
I would say Lesbian Tide was one of the early manifestations of lesbian feminist culture in concrete form, which went out in the mail to anyone who could hear it. It was printed, I don't recall how often, but it was interviews, it was reviews of the music, so that as we began to make our records, there were places, it wasn't just the Lesbian Tide, there was a whole movement of feminist newspapers and journals. The Lesbian Tide was one of the earliest efforts to capture and disseminate this incredible culture, which was growing and expanding at the speed of light, life, unbelievable. And there were these women who would show up and say, this sound is no good. Someone should do good sound for the female voice. And that phrase became, someone should, that became, oh, come here, little girl. Let's have a conversation. Let me connect you with so-and-so. And it was one of the kind of mantras that those of us who were already out on the road began to recognize. Someone should came from the hearts of these audience members who were studying economics at college and studying, European history or whatever, biology. And but they were gripped by this passionate desire to be bringing this music out into the world. And the Lesbian Tide was one of the very first journals to do that, to review us and encourage us.
I love the women in print culture, and I had a small part in it in Boston with the Second Wave magazine. But before we continue, Margie, if it's agreeable with you, let's listen to a song from your first album, Margie Adams Songwriter. This came out in 1976, and I think it's maybe one of your signature pieces, Best Friend, the Unicorn.
When I was growing up, my best friend was a unicorn. The others smiled at me and called me crazy. But I was not upset by knowing I did not conform. I always thought their seeing must be hazy. The unicorn and I would while away the hours, playing, dancing, and romancing in the wildflowers. And we'd sing, seeing is believing in the things you see. Loving is believing in the ones you love. Seeing is believing in the things you see. Loving is believing in the ones you love. When I was 17, my best friend was the Northern Star. The others asked why was I always dreaming, but I did not reply. I found my thoughts were very far away from daily hurts and fears and scheming. The Northern Star and I would share our dreams together, laughing, sighing, sometimes crying, in all kinds of weather. And we'd sing, seeing is believing in the things you see. Loving is believing in the ones you love. Seeing is believing in the things you see. Loving is believing in the ones you love. And now that I am grown, my best friend lives inside of me. The others smile at me and call me crazy. But I am not upset, for long ago I found the key. I've always known their seeing must be hazy. My friend inside and I will while away the hours, playing, dancing, and romancing in the wildflowers. And we'll sing, seeing is believing in the things you see. Loving is believing in the ones you love. Seeing is believing in the things you see. Loving is believing in the ones you love. Loving is believing in the ones you love.
Okay, so let's pick up the narrative. In 1974-75, you went on tour with Chris Williamson, Meg Christian, and Holly Near with a concert set called An Evening of Women's Music. And let's look at a picture of the poster of that. Can you talk a little about that? Collaboration has often been central to your work. What have these other artists and organizers taught you?
Oh, such a great question. I think showing up as a solo and immediately getting pressed up next to Vicky and collaborating.
Would you mind telling us a little more about Vicky?
Vicki
She's
Randall,
not as well known.
incredible singer, percussionist, most recently has been seen by an international audience at when Jay Leno was doing his late night television show. She was the percussionist behind that band. Before that, has been on the road with many of us. Just an interpreter, a woman who
What's
is
her
able,
last name?
Randall,
Vicki
Randle.
Randall. Okay.
I don't know if she has a recording. I think she lives in the center of women's music as a backup singer. But see, it's not that she backed me up. It's that she stood next to me and sang in such a way that lifted my voice. The same was true of Woody Simmons, who I met at the at Kate's festival. And I want to be sure to mention her because she sang just before I went on at that open mic at Kate's festival back in 1973. And she played the piano and the 12-string guitar in a way that I had not heard before. And as I was listening to her, I had my first experience of thinking, I could have written that. I could have written that song. Oh my God. Here's this woman, this composer is coming from, and I had felt that about Chris's music as well. I felt that about Meg's music. I mean, so Vicki came in as a singer, identifying wonderful music written by other women that she was singing. And she also, for me personally, gave me a space to imagine sitting on a stage with someone else. I don't recall whether we sang together, but I accompanied her and found where to be in collaboration with someone whose voice was being lifted by what it was I was improvising underneath her. I didn't ever use sheet music. I just made it up. So the collaboration between Meg and Chris and I came directly out of the collaboration between Vicki and Chris and I. A gig happened and Vicki wasn't able to be there. And Meg and Chris, who had been working together, said to me, hey, Meg's going to be in town. What about? And this organic kind of mysterious, I go out of language and want to go into singing about it. Sweet friends of mine,
Wonderful song. One of the pleasures of preparing for this interview is listening to all your songs that we don't have time to play right now, but let me encourage the audience to go to your website and listen to these fabulous. You have 9 albums, for heaven's sakes. It's really a rich, or it's a treasure for us.
Thank you. Well, but I do want to say something about that collaboration, because there were 4 of us, which meant that by way of demonstrating sisterhood in culture, each one of us had a set that was our own. And each one of us could then bring in 1 or 2 or 3 of the other artists who were sitting on the stage over there, as I was performing in solo. And I could say, Meg, come over here and accompany me or play with me and sing. And Chris, Holly, come on over here and let's all 4 of us sing Sweet Friend of Mine. And we developed 4-part harmony, including my melody. And then at some point, and this is, I tell you, you can hear it on the records, not just on mine, but you can certainly hear it on all the records that I have other artists singing with me, because there's a way that women in association, women in harmony, whether it's music or politics or whatever it is that we're working in together, where the sound becomes one sound. There were 4 of us voices, each one of them very unusual, but then all of us sang the same note at the same time and sang one single melody, all 4 of us, and the audience would just go wild with the obvious question, how can they do that? How can they do that? How is it that 4 strong alpha females can get together and create something in unison that is the women's health movement? Or, I could go down a list. How is that possible? because there's something that women can do together, which is breathtaking and completely unique. I see it happening now out in the world right now, but it rises up in me from months and years, decades of experience. Harmony, solo, and then harmony.
Speaking of harmony, in 1977, you performed at the Historical National Women's Conference in Houston with 10,000 women singing in three-part harmony.
Yes.
Your album of that name was released in 1982, hours before the ratification deadline for the ERA. And now let's listen to a little bit of We Shall Go Forth.
We shall go forth from this place, proud of the things we've done, sharing the things we've won. We shall not fail, and we shall go forth from this place, willing to open wide, sharing the light inside. We shall not fail, bringing together all we know for others who are struggling alone. Bringing together all we are, offering those who want to find us a way to find us, a way to see. And we shall go forth from this place, taking with us the pride of knowing we can decide. We shall not fail. Sing with me. We shall go forth.
What a fabulous, and after I began listening to it, it's resonated, it stayed in my psyche and my consciousness. What a
Thank
powerful
you.
experience that must have been.
Unbelievable. I let me just set the table just a little bit. It was made clear to me on Sunday morning or Monday morning, actually, at the end of the conference, that Phyllis Schlafly was going to attempt a disruption of the final plenary session. And I was asked to sing this song, "We Shall Go Forth," in order to intervene on if it happened that she was actually able to organize people to come and disrupt this incredible, very, very successful conference, that I would be the insertion. I would come and intervene in that with this song. And that disruption did begin to happen. And I was called from the front row up onto the stage where they had set up a piano while the conference was going on. The piano was moved into place behind where Gloria and the two first ladies were sitting there, and Bella was there. And at some point, Gloria turned and said, "Margie's going to lead us in a song."
Oh my gosh.
It was like that. And so I said a few words to the audience and said, "Okay, I'm going to divide you up into three sections. Starting over here," I moved as quickly as I could in a very smooth, slow, calm way. And within about 3 minutes, I had the audience singing 3-part harmony to "We Shall Go Forth." And it was beautiful. And then I dropped my voice into the song and we took off.
Amazing. Amazing.
Yeah, I'll never forget it. Yeah, and this at some place, I think the State Department later decided that they wanted to include this performance of "We Shall Go Forth" in the Smithsonian Political History Division. And I said, "Oh yeah, that'll be okay with me." I'd love that. Have some women's music in the middle of that. That'd be great. So I went over there to Washington, D.C., and somebody from the State Department came over and, did some formal induction. And I was quite appreciative. And yeah, really thrilling, just thrilling.
I bet. When you first began writing and performing openly feminist music, did you think of it as activism, or did that understanding come later?
No, I wasn't a performer. So I was bringing my songs because the interest was to an extent that a producer said, "I'll make a space for you on the stage so you can sing this stuff." And the audience had their reactions to it, which were so beautiful and so encouraging for me. I wrote "Sweet Friend of Mine" for Chris. It took so long to find you, all the, growing pains behind you right up till now. I mean, but the audience took a hold of it and said, this is our community song. I'm writing a love song to my lover. And it goes, it just goes right out into the world. And a lot of it was like that. The songs that I wrote were personal, but, as our beloved, who was it? A wonderful writer who wrote Ruby Fruit Jungle.
Rita Mae Brown.
Rita Mae Brown said, "The personal is political."
You bet.
And that's how it was. Gradually, it became clear to me, I can do something. And I was also being invited to the National Organization for Women's Conference. And the National Women's Political Caucus wanted me to come and sing at the end of their conference, and Women in the Law and Women in Psychology. And they're having these really heady kind of intellectual conferences. And then boom, on Saturday night, Margie Adam was the performer. And that was not a surprise, because the producers of that were often lesbian feminist students connected with the professors that were offering these and organizing these conferences. So I think I was organized, really. I was organized by the feminist movement, and particularly by other lesbian feminists. I was reeled in, one gig at a time.
Are there songs that surprised you with how deeply or widely they resonated? And I hesitated with this question because we don't have to have time to play the songs you mentioned, but let me encourage the audience again to go to the website and listen to them.
I wrote a song called I'm Not a Service Station. And that was, I would say, the most political song that I ever wrote. And I didn't perform it very often because I didn't want to be known by it. It for me, as a composer and songwriter, way too primitive, like 4 chords or something in it, and a melody repeated itself. But I wrote another song called I've Got a Fury. And that song, the audience would stop and stand up after I sang it and stop the whole concert. That in the early days really surprised me. And there was another song called Beautiful Soul that when I sang it, there was no applause at all. In fact, one of the first things that I shared with Chris was when we played that night was Beautiful Soul. And I said, I've performed this a few times and the audience doesn't applaud. I'm not sure what's wrong with the song. And then I sang it and she said, that's not really the response to that song, to applaud. Let the audience sit with it. Oh, okay.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking.
So many surprises. The first time I heard this, I thought, what's going on? Is there some kind of feedback going on in the speakers? And it was the audience singing Best Friend the Unicorn song with me. I was so touched. I could hardly go on. They're singing my song. My father was a songwriter as an avocation to being a newspaper publisher in a very small town of 5,000 people. The newspaper came out once a week, but he was erudite man. He's very, very educated and thoughtful and a composer of songs. And he said, Margie, now that you're getting into this songwriting, you want to write a melody that people will leave the hall singing. I said, how do you do that? And he said, I don't know. But you'll know it when it happens.
And it has happened, certainly.
It did. Yeah. I've been, I don't take a lot of credit. I've never sat down and pulled out a piece of paper and written a song. I've written lyrics and crafted lyrics, and that's poetry. But pitched wind is not, it doesn't come like that. And just, it comes through. That can't take credit. And I'm grateful. I'm not a craftswoman of songs. Yeah, I would not ever say that about or teach a workshop. I think I would be uncomfortable doing that. And I want to say that I just also want to say that there are composers and songwriters who are brilliant at teaching people how to write music. So I'm not saying that it can't be done. It's just not something I could do. Yeah.
Could we talk a little about aging? How is aging deepened? I know. It's my demographic.
Sure. No, it's good though. I want to talk about it. I was thinking of National is coming up, the 50th National Women's Music Festival. And I really hope everyone that's listening to this or watching this will consider getting on a plane and going to Madison, Wisconsin for the 50th.
That's where it is.
50th National Women's Music Festival. Yeah, it's moved around since Champaign-Urbana. It went to Bloomington, Indiana, and a couple of other places. But
I lived in Madison for a while.
Oh, wonderful town.
Yes, but I never.
What was I going to say about
in the 80s, in the early 80s?
Oh, it's just a great town. Yeah. What was I going to say about that? Oh, the aging. Yeah. 50 years later.
Yes.
50 years later. And I think as a woman aging, I was there. Well, I was there when I was 28. So I'm 78 now. And it is absolutely clear to me that it's my engagement with feminism and with the lesbian feminist community, with other artists, with the incredible network and industry of women's music over the last 50 years that's kept me young, kept my spirit ageless. I'm 78, and yeah, the body's weird, but
Well, how has it
I'm
deepened
not
your-
done. That's the point.
I'm not done either.
I can tell.
But how has it deepened or complicated your relationship to creativity, do you think, or has it?
Oh, well, I came off the road the last time, 2008, and I was complete. I've never been burned out. I came off the road for a while in 1984, and I did not. It wasn't because I was burnt out. It's that I needed to take a break. It just ended up being 6 years. This break ends up being, well, from 2008 to 2026. But I'm called back into my music, but in the context, as always, with women's music in general. So I'm way up in focusing on digitizing and making available our festival recordings. And there are lots of festivals that we did over the years that were recorded on reel-to-reel tape or cassettes even. And I feel a tremendous sense of urgency to get that material saved from the basements and attics of women of a certain age who are downsizing, and I would say that brings me back to my own music. I just putting it out. I got a call from a friend a month ago saying, would you be interested in getting a recording of a concert that you did at Jordan Hall in Massachusetts in 1977? One of my friends was a radio at the women's radio, blah, blah, and she's downsizing. And she thought, since I knew you, maybe you'd be interested to have, and I've got them right over here, 6 boxes. Yeah. So it's, I know that my vibrations go out. I know that when I speak, I have been given the incredible honor of being an influencer. And so I think if I talk about digitizing women's music and our history, it's not just women's music, but these archives will take everything, the archives as they exist today mostly will take everything about women's music, but the music itself. They don't want the reel-to-reel. They don't want to have to deal with it because it would mean digitizing. It would mean restoring and all of that stuff. It's not going to be the archives that save women's music. It's going to be us. And so I feel like, let's go. Let's go with that Jordan Hall concert, Mark. Get that digitized. And, oh, by the way, always the bigger picture, women's music. I know those reel-to-reel tapes out there at festivals are, vibrating. Get me someplace safe soon. They're talking to me. They're keeping me up at night. I'm telling you, Anne.
Well, this would be a good time to promote your film Radical Harmonies, which is widely available and a delightful experience. And, it traces the historic evolution of women's music starting early. Really.
Yes. I was asked to be involved in that film that was produced, the executive producer, Dee Mosbacher,
Mhm.
and also, let's see, this is an issue in aging that's hard on me. I want to have my notes all around me so that I don't leave out one name. But anyway,
It comes to you later too.
yes. Oh yeah, and drive me nuts. But
Well, we can look at
Dee's idea. Yeah. Yes, please do. Judith Castleberry.
Oh, right.
Was also a producer along with me. And I think our title was associate producers. But we, with Dee's production, drive, enthusiasm, involvement, passion, all of that, we're able to create, I think, a honest, earnest picture of women's music historically. Yes.
I loved that
proud
you started with Ronnie Gilbert of the Weavers.
That's right.
I mean, that's
Oh yeah. And we could have included Barbara Dane. We could have included Marion McPartland. I mean, and Betty Carter and Bessie
It's a
Smith.
real
I mean,
treasure, this film.
yeah. And I think this is one effort. I think it was never meant to be the statement. It's a statement. It's an opportunity. It's an endeavor in the name of women's music. But there's lots and lots of history out there. I think one of the really important parts about digitizing our festivals is that the festivals, by their nature, have a much broader combination of artists in women's music than the artists who you hear about on Saturday nights. You know, this is the Tuesday nights, the Wednesday nights, the Thursday nights, you know, which is where all of us started. Chris started on Tuesday night. Meg was on Wednesday night, I think, or maybe Thursday night. I was on Thursday night, or, you know, but we all ended up on Saturday night. And there's to capture the as much of the complexity of women's music as possible simply goes up against this idea that women's music was a bunch of white girls singing folk music.
Not at all.
They were there.
Yes, we were.
But yeah, and so much more. So there's a movement out there, definitely. The distributors, Lori Fuchs, Tony Armstrong Jr., who was did put together the journal Hotwire, which was a journal of women's music and culture that was around for 10 years and really, again, did the more current efforts that the Tide had begun earlier, you know, just went right on with it. Many, many names of women that are still out there and are now all of us with a drumbeat about digitization and saving this material before it's gone, because we will be disappeared again. We will be. If we don't do it, it's up to us. Yeah.
Very true. Now, I have two more questions.
Yes.
What brings you joy?
The first thing that came to my head was leaf blowing.
I love it.
I have 2 birch trees in the front of my house, and they've just given their last puff, and they're all down now. But I don't know, there was something about that tidiness. I think knowing that Carole King is still out there,
Yes.
knowing that Jane Fonda is out there,
Yes.
knowing that Nancy Pelosi is out there, knowing that Hillary Clinton is out there. I could go down the names, but these are women of a certain age. These are my compatriots, and
Right.
they're still out there because they're not done. And I know that there are women all over the country that are my age in their 70s or in their early 80s or mid 80s, whatever, that are vital and not done. And this is a time where we can step up. And, you know, Gloria was asked, you know, are you ready to pass your torch? And she said, absolutely not. I need to keep my torch so that I can light other torches.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Gloria, oh, you're so good. Yeah, my mentor for life.
Oh,
Yeah.
what a wonderful model.
Yes.
Okay, so now this is my plan, if it's okay with you. I'll ask you for valedictory remarks, and then after you deliver them,
I think I just gave them, actually.
well, I'd like to,
Oh, okay. Yes, go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
after we finish talking, I'd like to play Long Haul
Oh, yes.
from your 1993 album, Another Place, because I think it is such an anthem for our time. So I'll ask you for valedictory remarks. We'll play the song and then I'll thank you and we'll close out. Is that okay?
Yes, definitely.
So what would you like to share with our audience as our interview draws to a close? In 2 minutes.
I broke my leg a year ago. And it's the first time in my whole life I've been stopped. I broke my arm back in 2017, but it didn't stop me. I went on doing what I was doing. And when I was asked to speak or when I was asked to contribute in some part, some way or another, I was able to do it because my arm was just in a sling. But I was in a skilled nursing facility for 8 weeks because I couldn't walk. And then I've spent the last year making decisions about how much effort I'm going to put into taking care of my body when I have other things I want to do from the neck up. And I think also understanding that to be in a spiritual community, which I am, and to understand that I'm seen in a particular way in that community, to be able to show up in meetings with that community as I was, not the perfect version of Margie Adam, but as I was in a hospital bed, in a wheelchair, and bring what I could to share what I had as best I could with where I was, and to learn that over the year, to go to physical therapy and to stop barking at myself for not doing more exercises, to accept the exact nature of what my capacity and my focus limits are. I think this is what women, how we can share and support each other. I'm working at not competing with my 40-year-old self or even my 70-year-old self, to not compete with her and feel every day as if somehow I've failed, but to honor this 78-year-old. I'm going to be 79 February 7th. Wow. And I say it out loud because I'm practicing living in it. And I think that that's part of the women's movement, to say out loud what it is that we're living with, so that we can share it with other women and our allies, always our allies as well.
Well said. I share all of your concerns and your struggles. So it's really inspiring to hear you talk about them.
Thank you.
Can you tell us a little about Long Haul, a fabulous song that we're about to hear? It really, don't you think it really does speak to our current time of struggle? And
Yes. I was watching a television show when I was writing music back in 1991, after not having written anything for 8 years. I'd been performing. I came off the road in 1984, but right around 1990, right in that window, I fell in love, and I began to want to write songs again. Thank you, Hart. And I wrote a love song, and then I wrote this song, and I was watching television, and it was a kind of a historical version of civil rights stories, starting in the middle of the 20th century and going all the way through to LGBTQ rights and women's rights and disabled people's rights. And many times I've seen their faces on the TV screen. Some of them are still among us. Some of them are history. I mean, and that's where the song came from. I just boom, from this television show, but the lyric, the chorus is, this realization and an acknowledgement and a claiming of, I am in it for the long haul. I'll be with you at the last call. You can count on me if you stumble and fall, because I'm here for the long haul. And the song just evolves from there to, we are in it for the long haul. Again, I have no idea where this, I'm watching a TV show at the end of a day where I'm trying to figure out what to do with this rhythm in a song. And suddenly a whole song is downloaded to me. All I can do is say, thank you. Thank you, universe.
let's listen to it, audience.
Many times I've seen their faces on the TV screen. Some of them are still among us, some of them are history. But what always stops me is the message in their eyes, the truth they fight for, freedom in their daily lives. with a steady voice they call us, those of us who choose to see. With a steady voice they speak to us with simple dignity, and they say, I am in for the long haul, I will be there for the last call. You can count on me if you stumble and fall. I am in it for the long haul, I will be there for the last call. You can count on me if you stumble and fall on the long haul. All the ones who came before are calling out to me, drawing my attention to the things that should not be. Though I've tried to look away, my heart would not be still. The cost of my distraction is just not worth the bill. With a steady heart I reach out, taking hold of others' hands. With the teachers and the lovers here, I join to take a stand. I am in it for the long haul, I will be there for the last call. You can count on me if you stumble and fall. I am in it for the long haul, I will be there for the last call. You can count on me if you stumble and fall on the long haul. It's no secret all around us, suffering goes on. Every day we make a choice to witness and respond. I don't know the answer why we are here awake, while the others sleep beside us, content to only take. With a steady voice we call out, those of us who choose to see. With a steady voice we speak to all with simple dignity. Are you in it for the long haul? Will you be there for the last call? Can we count on you if we stumble and fall? We are in it for the long haul, we will be there for the last call. You can count on us if you stumble and fall, 'cause we're here for the long haul.
Margie, Adam, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a real pleasure.
Oh, Anne,
Let's do it again.
I'd love it. I just love it. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. And until next time, remember, resist.